Hello, welcome to Web of Stories. My name is Melinda, and I'm here second attempt at this video. I did it earlier today, and I did it while I was drinking my coffee, and apparently I was still in the midst of a caffeine high, and I was like, blah, 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 blah. That's how that video was. And I was like, I'm not going to inflict that on anybody. I know that sometimes my videos are like that. I talk too fast. I know it, but that one was especially bad. But I kind of realized I needed to kind of keep it toned for this one, or else you're going to get the wrong impression, because this is sort of a kind of negative video, which I don't normally do, but we're going to do it anyway. So earlier this week, up until yesterday, I was dealing with a really strange cold. Like, it was just not a fun cold thing. It was a head cold, but it also like made my nose itch, my eyes itch, and it just was incredibly annoying. And because it was annoying, I was annoyed at everything. Like, everything was annoying me. So I decided yesterday I'm going to get a grip on this. So I made a list of everything that was annoying me. It was a very long list. But on that very long list were many bookish things. So I thought, I'm going to share with you, now that I'm not as annoyed, I'm going to share with you bookish things that I find annoying. Okay? And I have 10. So we'll go through this, and I'll try not to get too revved up on it. I'm putting the first two together. I'm grouping them together because they don't actually personally affect me, but I am annoyed on behalf of other readers for this. Probably it affects the same group. And the first one is Sarah J. Maas. Maas? I don't know. Fantasy's not really my genre, so I don't read it. That's fine. I know people who love it. I hear it's great. So I'm not talking about the quality of her books. But I do know that her most recent book, when it came out, the publisher did this thing where they put like extra stuff or short story or something in 4 versions. Each version would be sold at a different store. So to get all the versions, you would need to buy 4 copies of the same book, except that's at 4 different places. Why? Who thought this was a good idea? So this is how I think about this, is of the people who are excited about this book, probably, I'm going to say 90% of them, they can give or take the extra stuff. They just really want to read the book. Great. They're probably the people who are going to get out of their library or, whatever. But then there's like this 10% of people who really just love this series, and they want to have it. This is a very big deal to them. And I applaud that. I think it's great to have something like that you're really excited about. And they are the people who are going to want, my husband's making lunch. They're the people who are going to want to go and get this because they want everything. I understand that. But why? These are also the people that publishers should be courting. Publishers should be taking care of these fans, because these are the people who it's wonderful to have these people. They're the people who will talk about the books, who will get other people to do it. And instead of celebrating these people, the publisher, and I'm saying the publisher because I don't think it was Sarah J. Maas who made this decision. The publisher, instead of celebrating them, decided to exploit them. What I find that really distressing. Now, if you wanted to do something special for these people, do something like have a special edition that you can only buy from the publisher's website for a certain period of time. You could even charge a little bit more for that, like $5 more. Great. These people would buy that because they just want the best of it. They want to be part of that. Not condemning. I'm totally like that with Louise Penny. But doing this little stunt where to get what they want, they have to buy the same book 4 times from 4 different places. It smells rotten to me, and I find it really annoying. That's number 1. So number 2, another big fantasy series genre, right now 2 books that I haven't read because it's not my thing, but that's fine. People love it, is the Fourth Wing Iron Flame thing. Now, I do know when Fourth Wing came out, there were issues because it's from a pretty small publisher and it really took off, and they had supply issue trouble getting the copies out. I understand that. Those things happen. But then they followed it up with this issue with Iron Flame, where they really pushed Iron Flame out there very quickly. I've not read Iron Flame. I have no plans to. I am not talking about the content of the book. but I am talking about the construction of the book. I know and know of a lot of people who went out and they got their Iron Flames the day it was released, and there were problems with the book, like physical problems. There maybe were blank pages. There were pages out of order. There were ones where you'd open the book like it normally would, and it would be backwards and upside down. These sorts of things. That's not okay. That's not okay. These are expensive books. No one put it on sale. I got news for you. It was people, when they bought it, when it came out, they were paying full price, and that's expensive. And the publisher already knew that they were kind of at capacity, but yet they still pushed forward because they want that dollar. I honestly believe the people who got these trash, as in the book itself was messed up, books would have been fine waiting a little longer so that they could be printed correctly. Again, it's a grab for money, and I know publishing is a business. The point of a business is to make money. I get that. However, there's also something about taking care of your customers. And in these two cases, well, in the first case, they're exploiting the customer. And in the second place, they're showing a complete disregard for the customer. And while I personally am not affected by either of those, I am really mad for the people who are, because I just think it's treating the fans badly. Okay, now we're going to go on to things that actually do affect me that I find irritating. So the first one, I touched on this recently when I did the Holmes spoiler. And I call this a Holmes spoiler, Holmes tag, because it's about spoilers. I was trying to say. I call this a passive-aggressive spoiler, but I don't think that's actually the best way to describe it. But what I mean is recommending a book to someone, say, you'll love this, there's a great twist at the end. That's a spoiler. No, you aren't telling them what the twist is, but you're telling them that there is a twist. That's a spoiler. That is a huge spoiler. And that's not fair. I've had that happen, as I detail in that. I mean, I've had it happen several times, but one time in particular that I detailed in that post was a book where I have to read it. There's a great spoiler. Well, then I spent the whole book looking for twist. There's a huge twist. I spent the whole book looking for the twist. And when it came, I knew what it would be, and I was completely let down, and that wasn't fair to the book. So don't ever mention to someone that there's a twist or something like the construction of the book. Even if you're not talking the specifics of the book, if it's something like that, that's a spoiler. I'm going to add to this, there are certain books that should never be spoiled. I have also mentioned this before. The two that I can think of, and there are probably more, that it's not okay to ever spoil. One, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd. It's a great Agatha Christie book. You should read it. It's a Poirot novel. All you need to say. Two, Never Let Me Go. Never Let Me Go, you say, it's a British boarding school story, and then you shut your mouth. Anything more than that's a spoiler. I listened to a podcast where they talked for 5 minutes about that. And I'm like, you've just ruined the book for anyone who may not have read it. Sorry. Anyway, that's my annoyance with spoilers. Number 3. Number 4. This is so irritating. You go to a little free library, either to drop off or pick up a book, and you open the book and you see trash. And I don't mean trashy books. I don't mean books that are in bad condition. I mean legitimate trash. Wrappers, used Kleenex, whatever. Or worst of all, and unfortunately far too common, dog poop bags with poop in it. Were you raised in a barn? It's not a trash can. And usually, if you're standing at the little free library, you can look and very easily see a trash can. So it's not that far. I understand not everyone chooses to live a bookish lifestyle. It's not a priority to a lot of people, but it is just considerate respect. That's obviously not a trash can. Obviously not a trash can. So don't put trash in it. Put books in it. They can be trashy books, but they should be books. I will say, just if the books are falling apart, I wouldn't put them in there either. And as for dog poop, this is just sort of a huge pet peeve of mine in general. I do not have a dog. I like dogs. It's not that I'm not a dog person. I just don't have a dog. Yet, I keep finding myself having to pick up dog poop in my yard and hidden in my fence. This is why I don't have a little free library, to tell you the truth. Because Dog poop bags. If you have a dog, you need to pick up the poop and throw it away in an appropriate place. Otherwise, you shouldn't have a dog. Period. Okay, off my soapbox for the dog poop. But little free libraries are not trash cans and not dog poop receptacles. This one, number 5, is a little bit niche, but here we go. Niche. As you know, I'm a big short story reader. I read lots of short story collections. And frequently in short story collections, the collection will include a novella. Great. Usually that novella is either the first or the last entry in this collection, but sometimes they put it in the middle, and I hate that. It's, you're reading a short story, you're getting through a story a day, it's without it's just perfect amount for a story a day, and then boom, there's a 150-page novella in the middle. No, beginning or end. There's no reason to put it in the middle. I mean, yes, I suppose if you're doing some sort of collection that's that the order of the stories is important, then maybe you have to do that. But that's the only case where I can think of that you would do that. So novellas, first entry or last entry, not in the middle. It's very annoying. Number 6, I know I'm not alone in this, but I also know that there are people who disagree with me. That would be deckled edges. I know they're pretty. I know they're kind of neat looking, but to me, they just make pages harder to turn and almost impossible if you have to thumb through a book to find something specific. Hate them. Now, there are people who love them, and I respect that. Don't understand it, but I do respect it. But personally, they're not worth it to me. It's not going to keep me from buying a book, but if I were to, and I have, read a book with a deckled edge, I will be kind of grumbling every time I have to turn the page. I think if you want to have fancy looking pages, do sprayed edges or something, but deckled, no. And plus, I don't actually like the look of deckled edges. It looks messy to me. I much more prefer a clean edge to my pages. But yeah, deckled edges. I know I'm not alone. Number 7, and this is one that I'm encountering a lot lately, especially because I'm doing the BookTube prize for nonfiction, because it does tend to happen with nonfiction books, is when you get a book out of the library and you're reading it, and someone who has checked it out previous to has decided to leave their thoughts in the book for you, usually in ink. Don't write in library books. Where did this become an okay thing to do? If you were to borrow a book from your best friend, would you write in it? No, you would not do that. Don't write. They are not your book. You are borrowing them. That's why they call them loans. They're library loans. They're loaning it to you. It does not belong to you. Don't write in library books. Even lots of times, especially if I'm reading a book that's on sort of a hot topic. Last year I read Jesus and John Wayne, and there was writing in that people going, totally, I agree, 100%. I don't care what you think. I don't know who you are, and I don't care. I don't need you to validate how I feel. You need to, if you feel, and there are people who annotating books as part of their reading experience, and that's fine, but they need to buy the book then and not get it from the library, because you're just ruining it for everybody else. There, play nicely. Okay, number 8, and I have a visual for this one. So as you know, I'm doing my Shakespeare collection, and so the first one we did was The Winter's Tale, and now we're doing The Merry Wives of Windsor. And for Christmas, I told my husband I wanted Shakespeare plays from the Folger Shakespeare Library, anything but The Winter's Tale, because that's what I had. And he got me several. He got me like Hamlet and Henry V and The Tempest, which I knew he'd get because that's his favorite. He also got me Twelfth Night. Now let me show you something. Winter's Tale, Merry Wives of Windsor. Twelfth Night. Now, I'm not at all blaming my husband for this. I'm blaming the Folger Shakespeare Library, not my husband. But that whole thing where they totally changed it, this is not a series, obviously, but still it's the same kind of thing. Why? Why is this a mass market? I hate mass market paperbacks anyway, but why is this a different size than the other ones? That's not going to look good on my shelf. I'm not someone who's super precious about book covers. Like, I'm not going to buy a British copy of a book because I like the British cover better than the American version. I will buy a British copy of a book if it's cheaper, but I would prefer there not to be the book club faux stickers on books, but I'm not going to throw a fit if there are ones. I know people who feel differently about covers, and that's fine, but just for me, it's not a huge thing. But this issue is like, it should look kind of the same on this part should look the same on my bookshelf. When you have a public facing bookshelf, so my keeper shelf is downstairs where everyone can see it. And they can see the pile next to it because I've outgrown it, but that is an expression of who I am. That's like hanging artwork on your wall. Artwork that you enjoy, so it tells something about you in your home. I don't want to have like a bunch of books that are all this, and then in there have a little 12th night. That doesn't look good. That is something that irritates me. So if I were to find a nice copy like this of 12th night, I'm replacing that other one. I'm just telling you. Okay. So now we're down to the last two, and these are the two big ones. And I want to preface number 9 with saying this is not at all directed to anybody on BookTube. This is not something that I have encountered on BookTube. It's something that I tend to encounter like in real life talking to someone. And in one case, I dropped a podcast because the podcaster leaned into this idea that I hate. And that is, you are somehow a better reader than other people. No, you're not. You're not a better reader. That's not a thing. It's just not a thing. Like, you could be a faster runner than someone, or you could probably even be a better cook. That's still even subjective, but you can't be a better reader. Reading is something that affects you personally. So you can't measure it against anybody else. People say, well, I don't read chick lit or romance, so I'm a better reader. No, you're a snob is what you are. I don't read a lot of fantasy. That doesn't make me a better or worse reader. It just makes me someone who fantasy isn't really a genre that I read, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with the genre. There's great fantasy out there, and I'm happy when I see my friends find fantasy novels that they love. But the whole better reader thing, as I said, I was listening to a podcast, and the host went into this, and I'm not going to tell you which one it was because I'm not doing that. I'm just saying unsubscribed. I will say I do listen to the Book Riot podcast, and Jeff O'Neill and Rebecca Shinsky sometimes go in this area. And I feel okay calling them out because they are book professionals, so they should know better than to do this, especially when they then follow it up with something that shows that they really aren't a better reader. Like, hey, have you ever heard of this book called Legends and Lattes? Like, they had never heard of that book. And then there was the time where for months, I apparently just got a package. For months, they kept talking about Taylor Jenkins Reid's debut novel, Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo, when it's actually like her 8th book. These are things they should know better. So like, I feel okay calling them out about it. But if I'm talking to a person and they start leaning into I'm the better reader, I'm like, no, I will call people on that, because that is not an okay thing to do. If you do that, you're a book snob, you're gatekeeping, and there's no room for that in the bookish world. I'm sorry. That's the way I feel. Finally, number 10. And this one is one that it just really gets to me. And it has recently led me to probably unfairly give a book a bad grade. So I really, really, really hate when a plot is pushed forward by the characters continually making the absolute worst decision, especially when the best decision is very obvious. And sometimes even they acknowledge that it's a bad decision. I don't like that. Now, more often than not, if I run into it, I tend to run into that when I'm reading like romances or rom-coms usually. I'm not saying that this isn't a bunch of rom-coms. I'm just saying when I've run into it, more often than not, it is in rom-coms. Dial A for Aunties. That was one that I could not even handle. Julia Spencer Fleming's Claire Ferguson, Russ Van Alstyne, like the 3rd or 4th book, one of those, somewhere in the middle there. And that is an up and down series for me, but somewhere in the middle, they had one like that. And it was just driving me crazy. Cause like, it was just people making stupid decision after stupid decision after. It was like, come on. All it would take is one person to think for like 2 seconds more about something, and there wouldn't even be a crime. But then this came to Yellowface, which I gave a C to. And I'm going to stand by that C because that's a reflection of my reading experience with it. But this is a part of Yellowface. However, in Yellowface, and this is why, while I gave it a low grade, I do actually recommend it to people. It is a hallmark or an illustration of the main character that she continually always makes the worst decision in books. I mean, books in the book, she always makes that is kind of the plot. It's just layering on a bad decision. So if I hadn't had all these other experiences with books doing this when they shouldn't, I probably would have been able to go into Yellowface in a much better place. But because I have read enough books and been frustrated with enough books doing this, when I get to a book who's actually probably doing it for an okay reason, I'm hands off, no. So there you go. Those are 10 things that are annoying me today, or actually were annoying me this week. Although I still find them annoying, even though I'm feeling better. Anyway, thank you very much. You have until February 21st to send me questions for my 500 Q&A. Like, subscribe, join my Discord down below. Thank you very much. I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.